Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Happy New Year, happy 2025, and, it started out with a bang. It's pretty intense, so, we have a lot to talk about today, and so what I wanted to do first and foremost is that we're right in the middle. I think it just ended about, actually just ended about 20 minutes ago. We've had 6 M-class solar flares, and we're in the middle of this M-class, M-class, M-class solar flare, X flare. So things have been a little bumpy over the last week, and I want to break down the solar flares, talk about the size and the repetition of them, start to talk about some of the impact it has on us, and then I'm going to take you into a really interesting way to look at 2025 and what we're doing. So I'm so glad you're here. And I'm really looking forward to this time together. And if this is your first time, welcome. I have plenty of solar flare symptoms and earlier videos over the last 18 months. You can go back if you're confused, or you can do your research and sort of grab these terms and put them down. If you're returning, bless you. I'm so glad you're here and so thankful for you. So let's get going. Off to an intense start. So starting Monday on the 30th. On the 30th, like the day after we just did our last video, right? We had 19 flares. One of them was a real high class C. Two of them were X classes in the X1, point 0.1, X1.6. Pretty small, pretty easy, right? Yeah, phew, made it, Claudia. I love that. And then we had 16 M classes that just kept bumping us along. So this is what I would show you, is that this is what it looks like when we start to see these bumps in these M classes just going along. It's quite intense. And then what I have is to show you that with these flares between the 30th of Monday to today, Sunday, we've had this really high geomagnetic storm. So in a regular day, this is what the geomagnetic activity looks like as it's measured around our Earth. As we started going into the 30th, 31st, and then in first and second, because it takes anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 days for these flares to hit. This is what happened. We went from this little green to all of this activity, and then we got into this intense KP, high agitation in our body. And then, as you can see, it started to drop, right? So we're in that same spot, but it's just sort of dropped down, and then it goes back up when there's these flares. So these charts are available on spaceweather.com, and they're really helpful to look up. And then Pam Youngins will put them on her Facebook page every once in a while. So when these storms, when this kind of agitation is hitting us, what happens is that it affects us physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, right? And so we start to sort of wobble, and we're not really sure what to do with our energy system, or how it is being rocked. That's probably the best way, because we're going to feel all of those symptoms of agitation, digestion, and we can go through all of those. But I just did those again like a week or two ago. So I want to stay away from listing out the symptoms, and let's talk about something that we can do to support ourselves during this, right? So on January 3rd, which was 2 days ago, right? We had two X-class flares, one at 4:30 in the morning Mountain Standard Time, and one at 3:41 in the afternoon. Both again were X1.2, X1.1. But these two came, within 12 hours of each other. And then on Saturday, the 4th, what happened is we got an X1.8 and at 5:48 in the morning. So we can't say it's been just 48 hours. We can say within the last 72 hours, we've had 3 X classes, and they've been rapid, like every 12 hours, just to kind of keep us. So when you think of a flare that comes in with that magnitude, right? And it opens us up. So it's going to hit, which card? Here it is. It's going to hit our pineal gland. It's going to hit our brain, and it's going to put us into an imaginative state where we feel what is possible, right? Where we feel like, whoa, I have so much energy, yet I'm feeling so drained by all of this. So when these flares come in, this is the sun card. This is like, man, it's affecting every part of us. This is in the light seers deck, right? And, for some of us, it means we can feel us walking away emotionally from things that are just like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm not going to stay in this dinner party. I'm going to ask my guests to leave. It's, already July, or it's already January. We're after the New Year's, just go home. We're in this, like, let's observe and see what's coming around the corner, because I have lots of thoughts. These crows are always lots and lots of thoughts. And then the other thing is, or like, zing, wow, I have so many ideas I want to bring into form and start working on them. This is the eight of Pentacles. It's where we start to manifest things. We start to make things happen, right? Wow. Okay. So 3X classes in 72 hours and 5 since Monday means that we have an enormous amount of fire and an enormous amount of intensity coming in. And what I like about this card with Osho Zen is that this is another version of the Knight of Fire, which is you're going so rapidly, right, towards something that you're just dissipating, and things are falling off of you rapidly. Now, when you shift over to Lee Harris's energy report, he does an energy update the first of every month. And in this January report, he said that things are starting to move quickly. We're starting to gain momentum. That, October, November, December was was speeding up, but it had some purposes to it. And now we're just like lightning going forward and shifting towards transformation. So, we want to time this with the fact that 2025 and in the beginning, the first half of 2026 is when we're at the peak of this solar cycle. So any of these solar flare things that we've been talking about for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, as they've been growing in intensity, right? As they've been getting really big and energetically rocking us, what's happening is that we haven't even we're just barely starting. That's probably the best way to put it. We're just barely starting with the big stuff. Now is when we want to sort of use the skills we've been practicing, bring in those tools that we know, that education, that ability to observe and assess, and start to work with this, because there's a couple things, right? As it affects our energy system, it's going to open up our pineal gland. And this is our connection point. This is how we connect to the ethers, to the heavens, to source. Is it comes through our pineal, our third eye, right here, right straight in the middle of our brain. And this is how we ignite, and our cells ignite, and our body system ignites. And so when our cells are going, it's removing debris. It's almost like, we've talked about, I didn't even bring the tower. I've shown the tower card so many times, I just left it aside. We're removing debris. We're creating internal and external changes. Makes sense, right? We're just figuring out, yeah, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do anymore, right? And we're dismantling everything that's stagnant, everything that's been old and hanging on us. And we're just moving forward in a much faster level. And that makes sense, right? Because I had this great idea, because when I was in fourth and fifth grade, I used to collect rocks from this local river. So it's almost like rock polishing. So you find these very jagged, sort of rocks, right? And you're like, it's beautiful. Some of these have been polished, like this one has not. And I think about the rock polisher that I used to have. It drove my mother crazy. It was one of those little bins. You put some rocks in, you put the sand in and some water, and then you turn it on for like a week, and it just spins and it spins. So what happens is you can put something jagged like this in, and it will come out smooth and beautiful. And you can go like, wow, I didn't know that rock had that much gorgeous beauty to it, right? And so we're in this rock polishing period of time where the dirt and the spikes and the sharp edges are being removed, and the rock is showing its true color. So when we hold all these beautiful crystals and rocks, like this is a Lemurian crystal, and this is This is an iron, can't think of the name of it right now, but you can just see how beautiful the stone is because the essence of it has been revealed and it is powerful in how it can work with us, right? So if we have, I'm going to build some blocks here. If we have these flares that are intensifying, right? We have these solar flares that are coming in and just rocking us. And our cells are being ignited. Our pituitary gland, our energy system is being ignited, right? And we are versions of being polished right now. I want to lay in a new term that I've been studying through Eli Strickenley, who does this Western Hermetic tarot, which is right up my alley as a historian. And, it's where I geek out totally. But he uses the term egregor. And an egregor is defined as a non-physical entity that arises from the collective thoughts, emotions, intentions of a group of people. So an egregor can be something that repetitively enough starts to show up and have its own personality and its own essence. So when I think of Christmas in the United States, I think of an egregor, which is at some point there was this story of Santa. There's these trees, there's these ornaments on the trees, the presents, the vacations, all of this started to come in around a religious celebration that became an egregore all of its own. And it's not, it can be created, egregores can be created intentionally or non-intentionally. They can be good or bad. And, it's what we're told to do. It's how we hold our thoughts. So because form follows thought, right? I think the flares are really going after, are we really going to keep creating or supporting these entities, this collective energy of certain beliefs, of certain traditions, certain expectations, right? Because energy and intentions of people get combined. And so egregores shape the perception, they shape the actions, they shape the interactions of what we do. So when we look at egregores, we can look at our political system, we could look at patriarchy, we can look at these new patriotism movements that are going on. We can look at the holidays and how big and out of control they've gotten. We can look at roles within ourselves, right? Because when we go to Greek, the Greek actually core word of egregore, it's egregorwa, O-I at the end, right? Which is the watchers, the vigilant ones. Or it can also be wakeful, to be awake. So when you are awake, and you're playing with these flares and you're removing rapidly all of these things that are attached to you, these thoughts, these programs, these conditions. And we talked so much about conditionings. What happens when and I'm not sure I could put my hands on the conditioning card without it stalling out here. So to me, I'm just going to say this is me. This is me putting the dots together and bringing to you what I think is going on. Is that we're in a collective mindset, right? And this mindset has been conditioned nefariously with by intentionally, whether we go through whether we go through mind control, whether we go through Project Mockingbird, which is an entire propaganda system. What's happening is that our beliefs that have been formed and held are old and they're stagnant. And if you have spent any time watching me, you know that I do a lot with the indigo frequency, which is the indigos are here to dismantle. They're here to break apart this stuff. And the solar flares are helping us. So that's just me saying what I think is going on and on a bigger picture, right? Because when we put all this together, that the solar flares are ramping up, that the activation within our human body or all sentient beings is being expanded, right? Uh-huh. Our pineal gland is being connected. It means it's time to change, remove, reshape all the egregores that are in our culture or in our family systems. And so go ahead and look it up. And I'll type it out in the description so you can look, you can see and see if I'm off base on this. I thought it was such a bizarre, big concept, yet so fun to play with, right? Okay. So I have 6 tips for you. And before I get to the tips, I want to remind you that there's a discussion group on all of this. And if you haven't joined in, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can click on my Acuity scheduler and book a time in to come and join this discussion group Tuesday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Or you can sign up for my Patreon and be a member for $11 a month. And you can go to every single one of them every Tuesday for free and post and talk with all of us as we're discussing these things from the video. So that's the first plug is come to discussion group and start to play with this. And the second thing is that thank you for the support as I've started 2025. I'm so grateful, especially to a few of you who have just been so generous and so beautiful with your gifting. And just know that as I move forward, the support, the love, the financial backing is really helpful. So thank you. All right, tips. I have some great tips for you. Oh, before I get going, look at this card. This is the 8 of wands. And what I like about it is it talks about the fog, it talks about the clouds, it talks about the fuzziness. And yet you're still on this journey. There is a trail, you're following it. It gets a little out of sight up in here. And there's the sun that you're going to. That's what we're going towards. And this is kind of where we at right now, where we are at right now. And we're being rattled as this is going through. I forgot to show you this one. Okay. So number one, set a time like once a day, couple times a day, where you just go like, give me a minute. I'm going to pull away from the fray and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to breathe and I'm going to check in. Where are my feet? So you can just put your hand on your heart. You can put your hand in your solar plexus. Just take a minute. And like I do this right before I start the video, put my feet on the ground and go, where are my feet? Where are my thoughts? How am I doing? Am I ready? And so taking that moment, and that could be in between phone calls during the day, that could be at a stoplight, that could be anywhere. Just pause and go, take a deep breath. How you doing? Where am I? Where are my feet? How's my breathing going? These momentary check-ins are going to save you from all of this rattling that's going on because it puts you in touch with yourself, right? Number 2, regulate your solar plexus. We've talked about this. The solar plexus are the pump source. They're the constant energy they bring. They pump what do I want to say? Blood up into the heart. They open the lungs, they shut the lungs. So our solar plexus are the epicenter. And that's why it is the symbol of the sun, right? The circle with the dot in the middle. So when we slow down our breath, right? And we put our hands on our belly and we feel our breath going and out, in and out. And then we begin to regulate it. If it's going really fast, then we start to slow it down so that we can feel our bodies more. Because this is how we set our pace. This is how we set our dominion over our world is we stop reacting to the egregores. We stop reacting to the collective. We stop reacting to the things around us. And we center ourselves and we determine our sovereignty by how we breathe. Okay. Number 3, recognize that you're in a tumbler of sorts, right? And that you're being polished into something really beautiful, some purpose, some meaning that's different than what you've been over the last decades of your life, right? So, you're being energetically changed, you're being smoothed, you're being polished. And notice what is falling away, what is emerging. And for me, what I would say is that it's been a long, hard journey, no doubt. And as I went through October, November, December, I'm noticing that I enjoy my own company a lot more than I ever thought I did. I enjoy people when they choose to interact with me. I don't take anything for granted, and I'm fully present, which is, I thought I was present before, but this is different. So pay attention to people, places, and things that you find yourself, pulling away from. That you're like, I can't do that anymore. I'm not going to spend my time and energy with that person or in that place. And what we're doing is that we're taking ownership of the forms of what we want to be. We're taking ownership of how we're going to interact in this crazy world of ours, right? Okay, so you're in a tumbler. Just know, hey, I'm being tumbled. Things are falling off. I have no idea what I'm going to look like. I have some ideas, and I think it's going to be really wonderful when I come out of this, or when I emerge with some more clarity, right? Number 4. Wow, all of this has really been about closure in 2024. Learning tools, um, putting ourselves through new information and understandings about who we are and what we're here for, and we're seeing it in the revelations, through the drones, through the UFO information, through the what if we are part of a bigger galactic purpose. And so what's happening is November and December, according to Lee Harris, was a month of deep, deep grieving of walking away from things that no longer serve us, right? And that we may have been in a state of nostalgia. We may have been playing stories over, like, this is probably my last Christmas doing it this way. This is where I'm saying goodbye to this house or this job, or even the way a child is growing up, and it's time to sort of loosen your reins and let them be more of who they want to be, right? Because what's happening is we're doing closure on the old way, and we're experiencing the emotion of that closure. And we have for the last 2 or 3 months. Now, what's happening is we're going forward fast. So just count on the fact that you've done your closure over the last 2 or 3 months, and that you are ready to go explore all of the possibilities of what's coming, right? Number 5, get curious about the egregor. Go look it up, right? Go look at it, because it's about leadership. It's a role. It's about roles. It's about expectations, and we're dismantling it. And we're dismantling it with frequency. We're dismantling it with insights. We're dismantling it with ahas. And then we're kind of going like, I'm not doing that anymore. So get curious about the egregores. I think that's the most important one of all of it, is go look it up. And they're going to say it's a cult and it's esoteric and it's this or that, but you can chat GBT it. You can do anything and just go like, how do I not know anything about this word or about this concept? Because it's pretty fascinating. And then number 6, right? Number 6, how to have compassion, deep compassion, because we're letting go of attachments. We have fears. We have fears of change. We have dependencies that we developed. We have stuckness. So just have compassion that we're all going through this in our own pace, at our own time. And I apologize for going a little over. Welcome to 2025, and I can hardly wait to see what I get to talk about next week. All right, you take care. Bye bye.